I'm glad you could find time to join me today. This is The Point, and I am Miriam Ogutu. My guest today is quite confident about clinching the presidency of this country come the August general elections. But will Kenyans give him this mandate? Mr. Professor Wainaina.
Yes.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you for inviting me to the show.
I'm most honored.
Yes.
So do you think Kenyans are going to give you the mandate to run this country as the president?
In 1992, there was a political clarion call that I usually like using because it is a clarion call that reminds us that we are a democracy, and it was a clarion call that was popularized by Kenneth Matiba, and he said, "Let the people decide."
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It's a very famous line.
Let the people decide.
So let the people decide.
Let the people
they have
decide.
the mandate.
Yes.
So what's different about your narrative compared to the already existing narratives that you're hearing from the rest of the presidential candidates?
There isn't much of existing narratives apart from tribalism. I think it is a dominant narrative, and it is a narrative of NASA, and it's a narrative of Jubilee. And I have been blogging for a long time, profmichaelwainaina.com, and I have been saying that it is time for this country to imagine a new non-ethnic political narrative, because the challenge that we have is the ethnic narrative that we have. Mm-hmm. I'll remind you, when Obama came here, he was very categorical, and he said that our problem is not ethnicity. Our problem is lack of imagination. Mm-hmm. We have been given ethnicity by the tribal warlords in NASA and Jubilee, and we are unable to imagine something different. And my run for the presidency is to let Kenyans know and to let Kenyans understand that it is possible to imagine something different. It is possible to mobilize politically without falling back on the ethnic narrative. Mm-hmm. And I have said, as part of an alternative non-ethnic political narrative, mm-hmm. that honest men and women need to partner in order to inspire and invest in a new generation of young people, mm-hmm. who will modernize this country. And that is why our campaign is called the Youthify and Modernize campaign, where we are saying, can we leapfrog this country, mm-hmm. from a primitive tribal third world country, mm-hmm. into a first world country in one generation? And the answer is yes, we can. But to do that, we would need to inspire and invest in a new generation, mm-hmm. of young people who are going to do that, because it is not the tribalists who are going to do that. Mm-hmm. It is a new generation. So how do we link that generation with that vision? We must inspire them, and we must invest in them.
You just brought up a very interesting point,
yeah.
about the new generation, and to, yeah. inspire them, for them to think differently.
Yes.
But if you've been active in the social media, you realize, yeah. it's a lot of these young people who are very active, in Twitter and Facebook and these other platforms.
Yeah.
And it is shocking to see how even young Kenyans are tribal.
Yeah.
So how are you intending to inspire a different mindset and thought process?
I'm not shocked. Why are you shocked? Why are
because
you
you'd think, for a long time, imagine it's the generation of our parents who,
yeah.
for whatever reason,
yeah.
think like that.
Yeah.
And you think because people have gone to school,
yeah.
and they're more enlightened, they're
yeah.
expected to think differently.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that is not the case.
People do not think differently by nature. Mm. People are taught to think differently.
Yeah.
And my argument is, if we do not teach the next generation something different, they will just pick the bad manners from their parents. Mm-hmm. That is how society works. Mm-hmm. And I have heard this argument that give this thing time, and if you give this thing time, mm-hmm. this country will become tribeless. That is nonsense. Mm-hmm. I am a teacher. I know that the only thing that young people, children and young people do is learn. And they learn by modeling. Mm-hmm. They listen, they watch, and they do what we are doing. Mm-hmm. So that for me, the question of give this thing time, the only thing that we are doing is to give time to the tribalists to entrench their narrative. Mm-hmm. The antidote to political narratives is not time. The antidote to political narratives is counter-narratives. Mm-hmm. If we do not imagine new narratives and push these new narratives to the center, the young people are going to pick from what they have learned. And I have had that argument even about corruption. The saying you want to inspire a new generation, but you know the young generation is as corrupt as the old. Of course they are as corrupt as the old one. There's a song that is was sung by Whitney Houston, the late Whitney Houston.
Yeah.
And she said, I believe the children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Teach them well and let them lead the way. So before we start accusing our young people of being corrupt or being tribal, have we taught them differently? And that is why I'm running for president, to let them know that a different world is possible, a different narrative is possible. It is possible for one to mobilize politically without falling onto the tribal narrative. If we don't teach them well, they will not know different, and they will not do different. So I'm not shocked.
Monkey see, monkey do.
Absolutely.
I guess. So you call your vision a new and transformative leadership.
Absolutely.
Tell us
I
more about
don't want
that.
to talk about transformative leadership. Transformative leadership is so cliche. I mean, the
From
fellows,
your perspective, Professor.
the fellows in Jubilee call themselves transformative.
Yeah.
The tribalists in NASA call themselves transformative. So I find the word has lost meaning. I don't want to talk about a transformative leadership. I want to talk about a new leadership. A different direction, a different dispensation, a different way of thinking. And the basis of the Youthify and Modernize campaign is to reimagine how we think about youth and the youth in this country. For the last 54 years, successive regimes have treated youth as a problem to be solved. So when they come into power and they have a list of problems, you know, they list their problems, Al-Shabaab, ICC, UNGA, SGR, youth. It's part of, it's in the list of problems. And we do need to realize as a country that youth is not a problem to be solved. Youth is a resource to be developed.
So how do you intend to develop this very
And
important
Youthify
resource?
and ModernizeKenya.com, I think we have spelled out so many things that we plan to do for the, we have a 10-point manifesto that explains what our priorities are going to be. Number one is youth development. And we've said that the first thing that we're going to do is to invest in a countrywide youth development and support infrastructure, which does not exist currently. If you come out of school, you come out of college and you go home, you have nothing, you have nowhere to go to. You've got no mentorship, you've got no guidance, you've got no information, you've got no networking, you've got no collaboration, you're on your own. So we do need to create that infrastructure, youth development and support infrastructure in every constituency so that young people have a place to go. But beyond that, and if you go to Youthify and ModernizeKenya.com, you're going to see our manifesto. Beyond that, we are big on innovation. We are big on business incubation. We are big on internships. In fact, we have said that when it comes to skill development and technological transfer, we actually need to do modern airlifts. You remember in the 1950s, 1960s, there were airlifts. Young Kenyans were taken abroad to go and learn.
That's where Barack Obama Sr.
Absolutely.
During that
This is the time for us to take our young people to go and see. We are telling them that we can be a first world country in a generation. They need to see how a first world country looks like. You cannot promise people things that they do not know. And we want to airlift them for internships, for educational exchange programs, for tourism, for information exchange, for the technological transfer. And we have a huge program on how we are going to link our Kenyan young people with the developed and with the developing world so that they can open up their way of thinking. I have just told you, if you don't teach young people differently, then you can't come back and say that they're not doing different. You have to teach them differently. They have to know something different. I have a friend of mine who has a girl who is interested in automotive engineering. In this country, it's just called mechanica, you know. She's a mechanica, you know.
Yeah.
But she is really interested in automotive technology, and you know, it is automotive technology is becoming very digital. And when she comes out of college and she needs to do attachment, the mother tells me ati amemtuma ati hapo Ruaraka, ati kuna garage hapo Ruaraka, ati anaenda kujifunzia hapo. Garage hapo Ruaraka is not going to help a young girl who is interested in automotive industry think differently. It may give her something to do from 8 to 5. It may give her some few skills. It may give her some basic networking. But imagine what a 1-week internship in a BMW factory in Germany would do for this girl. It would change her life forever. And it is not just this. There are thousands of young people who need to have an idea of how does the modern world work. When we tell them that we want them to live in a modern, developed world, how does that look like? The people who are in this studio, 2 days in a CNN studio would change these guys, my friend. They would come back totally different. Yeah. You start hearing new ideas and new ways of doing things that you currently can't conceptualize.
True.
So we have a fairly extensive program for youth development and support structures. We have very elaborate programs for youth enterprise development. We are proposing to merge the so-called funds. In their bid to solve the problem called youth, government starts fund. Youth fund. Okay, it is their way of solving the problem. But it's also their way of stealing the money, because it's not easy to steal the money when it's in the treasury. So they need to send it to a fund where it is easily stealable. And they steal it. NYS was stolen. Youth Fund was stolen. Kazi kwa Vijana was stolen. So what we need to do is to consolidate all these funds into a youth and women development bank. This youth and women development bank is going to be sensitive and it's going to be sympathetic to youth and women entrepreneurship in a way that commercial banks cannot be. Because commercial banks look at lending as a financial issue. We need to look at lending and we need to look at capital as a development issue. And the only way we can do that is to have a state-backed bank that is going to listen to the story of young people and the story of women and their journey to entrepreneurship and help them move along. So in terms of our program for youth and women, pretty extensive, pretty ambitious. Go to youthify and modernizekenya.com.
Pretty ambitious, I might say.
Very ambitious. We're not doing anything. We're not doing anything in half measures. Let me give you another one of our projects. Every government and every regime has a flagship project. For Trump, his flagship project was the wall. Okay. For Jubilee, their flagship project was scuttling justice at the ICC. They've been spectacularly successful at their flagship project. For us,
it was not the laptop thing.
Well, that's what they told you. So if you bought that, too bad for you. You should have known that you're dealing with politicians. The only reason why Jubilee came together and sought power was to frustrate and to scuttle justice at the ICC. It was the reason they sought power, and to date, it is their most successful event. I don't think that Jubilee has been more successful at anything else than for the reason that they came together in the first place. So for me, I give them an A+ as far as their flagship project is concerned. There is an article that was written by Ruto, the Deputy President, on 10th of August 2016 in the Standard, if you check Standard of 10th August 2016, and he claims that the SGR is their flagship project. And I did write a rejoinder in my blog, profmichaelwainaina.com, and told him, boss, your flagship project was scuttling justice at the ICC. Anyway, that was Jubilee's. What's our flagship project? We want to build the biggest skills and talent development center in the world.
In the world?
In the world.
What would that look like?
That is going to look spectacular. It's going to be the place that dreams are made of. We do need to build a monument to the dreams and the talents and the abilities of young people in this country. If there is one thing that is given lip service in this country, is youth talent. Is youth talent and skills. So they will tell you you're going to develop talent, and then you ask them how they're doing it. They're going to say they're building stadia. You do not develop skills and talent in young people by building stadia. They are okay. You build skill and talent in young people by investing in them.
And make sure the talent pays back.
Absolutely.
Okay. So looking at Kenya from where you're sitting right now, should the citizen of this country be hopeful of a better picture? And if yes, could you paint this picture for us? Should you be elected the president of this country?
That's an interesting question. Should the citizen of Kenya be hopeful about this country? That's what you're asking.
Yeah. Like
My answer is,
Mm-hmm.
if they elect the tribal kingpins in NASA and Jubilee, they have no reason to be hopeful. These guys have absolutely no capacity to change this country, and they have absolutely no capacity to make this country a good place
By
to be
capacity,
young.
you mean will?
They don't have ideas, they don't have
will.
will, they don't have the ideas, and they don't have the will, but it is difficult to find any two individuals in this country who are more invested in the political and economic status quo than Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga. For them to be successful, nothing must change. They are so invested in the status quo that if anything changes, they will not be successful. For us to be successful, everything must change. So my answer to your question on whether Kenyans can hope for something better, if they elect NASA and Jubilee, forget it. It cannot happen. They have no ability, they have no capacity, and they have no motivation to change anything. My dear, why would you change something that is working for you? Tribalism works for them, theft works for them, mediocrity works for them. Man, did you see the kind of nominations that they did in NASA and Jubilee? Are you seeing them crying around saying, oh, how bad these things are? They are happy with themselves. Thuggery and nonsense works for them. If Kenyans elect them, they can only expect politics of tribalism, politics of impunity, and politics of mediocrity. I call it in Kiswahili, siasa ya ukabila, ukora na upuzi. That's the only thing that they can expect from NASA and Jubilee. Do Kenyans want change? Do Kenyans want new? Do Kenyans want different? Good. Elect new. Elect different.
And you are the new and you are the different.
Absolutely. We are saying it is time to youthify and modernize this country. It is not just time to elect Wainaina as president. It is time to inspire and invest in a new generation of young people who will modernize this country. That's the only way we will change.
Okay, Prof. In case you're joining me, this is The Point, and my guest today is Professor Michael Wainaina. And he thinks he's the solution to the current issues that are plaguing this country, including, Professor, you've mentioned the runaway corruption. What will be your solution for that? Assuming NYS was to happen during your tenure, what would you have done, or what will you do if such a thing happens and you are the president of this country?
One, I don't think I'm the solution. I haven't said that I am the solution, because I doubt that any single person is the solution. The solution to the problems that are stalking this country is the people of Kenya. They are the solution to the problem. Wainaina cannot be a solution to the problem. Number two, I told you that this country is not corrupt and this country is not tribal by default. It is tribal and it is corrupt by design. The people who designed NYS, they designed it to be stolen, so it was stolen. So, and sometimes when I see people making such a big deal out of the corruption in this country, I wonder how easier can it get? Madam, if somebody in this studio was stealing computers and you know who it is, are you going to call a management meeting and start drawing up policies about how to deal with stolen computers?
No.
No, you get the guy out and you get the fellow jailed. The only way to get rid of theft and corruption in this country is to get rid of the thieves. And the people of Kenya know who the thieves are. They've been stealing from them for the last 54 years. So surely they know who they are. If they do not want theft to go on, if they do not want tribalism to go on, they need to get rid of the thieves. Let me talk to you about the Trinity. There is a Trinity in this country, and this Trinity is the Trinity between tribalism, impunity, and corruption, okay? Let's call it, for the purposes of discussion, let's call it the unholy Trinity.
Truly unholy.
Unholy Trinity. Tribalism is the mother of impunity, okay? for so long as the country is being led by tribal warlords, you cannot punish anybody for anything because there is a sense of entitlement.
Yeah.
There is a sense of it is our turn to eat.
Person,
okay?
Yeah.
So here you have Jubilee, which is a tribal duopoly, and now you have NASA, which is a tribal trilogy. Okay. They are claiming that Jubilee are tribalist. They themselves, the NASA government, has already been apportioned to tribal warlords even before it has come into power. Okay, so it gets into power. It's a tribal trilogy. What is going to happen? You cannot punish the people who are doing wrong, and if you touch the duopoly, they will say, "Look what these people are doing to our people," and that's why I told you in this trinity, tribalism is the mother of impunity, okay? Impunity is the protector of corruption, okay? You therefore cannot get rid of corruption if you cannot get rid of tribalism. You cannot get rid of tribalism when you are being led by tribal warlords. So that if Kenyans want a country devoid of corruption, they need to get rid of the tribal warlords in NASA and in Jubilee. I have told Kenyans, and I will tell Kenyans again, they will solve 50% plus one of their problems if they get rid of NASA and Jubilee. 50% plus one of their problems will be solved just by that act. And that's why I told you, Wainaina cannot be a solution to the problems in this country. The problems in this country will be solved by the people of Kenya. And I have told them that 50% plus one of their problems will be solved the day they retire the Moi political orphans in NASA and Jubilee.
Okay. Oh, wow. So how would you rate your winning chances?
What do you mean, how do I list my winning chances?
How would you rate, like, do you think you're going to win this?
What kind of a question is that? I mean, why would I be running if I didn't think I'm going to win? Who runs? Why else would I be running?
Because there have been arguments going around that, and critics have been saying that a lot of the independent candidates and these candidates from the smaller parties, they're just doing this for just to be seen and maybe hopefully get nominated or given something after this, but not really for the whole long yard.
Yeah. So tell the critics to try lacing my boots. I don't think that I have anything to respond to critics who just sit down and they think that they're very intelligent. I suspect that the people...
So yours is not a popularity contest as
go and ask them. I mean, he who claims must prove. He who claims must prove. You can't collect rubbish from critics and then I'm supposed to clarify on their behalf. I have said, and I will continue saying, the only person who can claim that I have been paid is the person who paid me. When you find that guy, bring him on studio and let him say that he paid me and let's have this discussion. But people theorizing and speculating that Wainaina is looking for positions and Wainaina is looking for this or the other. Let me tell you, I have talked to all the people who are running for president. I may not agree with them, but I can tell you that these are men of honor. These are people with a vision. These are people with a commitment to this country. We were in a meeting yesterday with the Interreligious Council. And we were talking about the elections and the role of the church and the role of the candidates in making sure that we have free and fair and peaceful elections. And I remember telling them this same thing, that the people you're talking to here, of course, the tribalists in NASA and Jubilee didn't care to come because for them, it doesn't matter. They think they have a locked vote. And I told them, I have talked to the people who are running for president. And I think that these are noble men with a vision, with a calling, and with a commitment, and I think that they should be engaged more in looking for solutions. Because I think if you're looking for new, if you're looking for different, the possibilities of new and different exist with these fringe candidates. Those possibilities, like I've told you, do not exist with the tribal kingpins in NASA and Jubilee. They don't.
Okay. So for the viewer who's probably watching you and hearing about you for the first time, who is Professor Michael Wainaina?
I'm a presidential candidate, an independent presidential candidate who believes that it is time for us to start the journey to leapfrog this country from a third world country to a first world country. I am committed to the cause of young people and to the cause of women because I do believe that young people are the biggest resource that we have for modernizing the country. I do believe that the role that women have played in development so far has not been acknowledged by the leadership in this country. I do believe that there is no country that develops or modernizes that does not recognize the role and the place of women in development and in modernization. I think we are yet to do that. And our commitment in this race is to make sure that for the first time on the political dais, the issues of youth and women are top of the agenda. They've never been top of the agenda in any presidential race. Presidential races in this country are predominantly decided, are played by tribal warlords, and therefore tribe is usually the most important agenda. For the first time in a presidential race, issues of youth and women are top of the agenda for this candidature, and they will be top of the agenda for the Youthify and Modernized government.
Okay. You just mentioned earlier the presidential debate that is coming up soon. And of course, there was an argument whether every one of the presidential candidates should be allowed to be on stage. Yeah. And of course, you've said you're looking forward to that and you're excited and you really want to go and make your points to point out, call Akina Raila out and Akina Uhuru's of this country.
Yeah.
Do you think should President Uhuru Kenyatta be worried about your entrance in this race in regards to you might split his Mount Kenya votes?
I don't know there's anything called Mount Kenya votes. So if he has a bag of votes called Mount Kenya votes, then sorry
Professor.
For him. Okay, I don't know that there's Mount Kenya votes. I know that Uhuru has one vote. I know I have one vote.
Okay.
I know that I am here to inspire and invest in a new generation of young people. I know that I'm talking to Kenyans and giving them a new non-ethnic political narrative. I know that we need a new direction, and I am articulating that direction for Kenyans. And let the people decide. He can keep his Mount Kenya votes. If he has them in his briefcase, he can vote for himself. I cannot assure him that he will get mine. I only have one. And I don't care about his. He can vote for whoever he wants to vote for.
Okay.
About the Mount Kenya vote, if he has it, he can go and vote for himself.
Yeah.
But I am here to present a case of new, a case of different, a case of change, a case of hope, and a case of progress to the young people and the women and to the honest men of this country. If they feel that that is a direction that they would want to take going forward, then they vote for it. And if he has something to offer, let him offer and let the people decide. But it can help him if he has a sack full of votes that he can vote for himself, that he calls the Mount Kenya block. I don't know what that is.
All right, Professor. So why did he choose to go independent? I can see you're a very independent thinker.
There's your
one
answer,
of the
man.
reasons?
There is your answer, man. Do you think anybody would listen to me? Do you think if I walked into any political party, I would be accepted? I mean, the guys are going to say, security, you get rid of this idiot. Who the hell does he think he is? And that is a problem. There isn't space in this country for new thinking and for different thinking. It's number one. There is no place in this country for young people who are looking at the world different. I'm not saying that I am young, but
you're relatively young compared.
Relatively. If you are a young person in this country who has ideas and who wants to participate, you're in trouble. It's not going to happen. They first of all want to know what your last name is, and they want to know how much money you're bringing in. Young people need to build a profile. Young people need to to build wealth with time. The only thing that they have to build wealth with is their skills, it's their ideas, and it's a commitment to their ideas. And therefore, if I am coming in with skills and commitment to ideas, the only thing that the political establishment can do for me is to buy me out. Because for them, everything is about money. Okay? So if I would get into NASA or into Jubilee, they will ask me how much money I want. NASA would be very happy to sanitize their tribal rubbish with a Kikuyu name. So why would I wanna go there? You know what happened to fellows like Onyango Law, who had gone to sanitize Jubilee crap with the Luo name? These things happen to you. Do you see what happened to Isaac Mwaura, whom had gone to sanitize tribal rubbish in ODM with a Kikuyu name? These things are going to happen. I don't want to present myself to the political class to be used like a rubbish bin. And I didn't have any choice but to go independent.
Okay.
If there was space for new ideas and new actors in the current political establishment, I probably would be part of the establishment.
Fair enough. So according to you, what are some of the urgent needs of Kenyans?
Youth, number one. Youth, number two. Youth, number three. And youth, number last. There is absolutely no way we can imagine a new Kenya, and build a modern state without inspiring and investing in a new generation of young people. If you know of another method, I would be happy to use it. For me, I only know of that method, that we have reached a point where the current political class is a spent force, and the only thing that it can do is to recycle itself. The only way to get out of this cycle is for us to inspire and invest in a new generation of young people who think differently.
So what will be your solution to the health crisis that has become now very bad in this country? I don't even know which word to use, because even right now as we speak, the health sector, I think, is in a crisis. So what would be a solution to this?
There's no health crisis in this country. There isn't. There is a governance and leadership crisis. There is a crisis of thieves and looters. There is a crisis of corruption and mismanagement. There is a crisis of Moi political orphans who use the state as a vehicle to personal riches. Did you hear about containers that had been bought in Mombasa? That is 100 million. What can't we do with 100 million? The problem in this country is not medicine. The money to buy medicine was stolen. The problem in this country is not hospitals. The money to build hospitals was stolen. I told you, the problem in this country is a tribal and a corrupt political class in NASA and Jubilee. And I told you, we will solve 50% plus one of our problems by kicking these guys out. The health crisis, as you call it, is one of those ones. I think it's a plus one. Okay? you just get the thieves out. Once you get the thieves out, you will be able to, you will find that most of the so-called problems that we have are rooted in tribalism. I've told you, in the Trinity. They're rooted in tribalism, in impunity, and in corruption. And this is a trinity. Okay? You cannot solve one without solving the other. So if you deal with the issue of tribalism, you will deal with the issue of impunity, and you will deal with the issue of corruption, and you will deal with all these other crises that we are talking about. Okay? You will deal with the health crisis, you deal with the education crisis, you deal with the maize crisis, and tomorrow you don't know which crisis they will bring. For so long as it makes money for them, to you, it's a crisis. To them, it's a windfall. They're happy.
Okay. All right. What's your opinion about the controversial tendering of the ballot papers?
I don't know that the tendering is controversial. Okay? I do know that there are vested commercial interests on both sides, NASA and Jubilee. Okay? Bana nimekwambia ni watu wa siasa ya ukabila, ukora na upuzi. Okay? So whatever is happening with the tender ni siasa ya ukabila, ukora na upuzi. So if they have a genuine concern about the tender, go to court and let the court decide. In the meantime, can the IEBC be independent and deliver to the people of Kenya free and fair elections? They should forget about delivering free and fair elections to NASA and Jubilee. NASA and Jubilee cannot even conduct free and fair nominations. Number two, NASA and Jubilee do not want free and fair elections. They want elections that they can win. That is why they want to control who is printing the ballots. So, two things. If you have a problem with the tender, go to court. In the meantime, IEBC, be independent, deliver to the people of Kenya free and fair elections.
Do you think sometimes IEBC dances to the tune of NASA and Jubilee?
I don't know whose tune it dances to, okay? Because there are so many tunes.
I think those are the two major tunes.
Kregler in 2008, when we were on each other's necks, Kregler told us, you cannot have free and fair elections in an atmosphere of political thuggery. Political thuggery is still what controls politics today. So, trying to find out whose tune is being danced to is a useless enterprise. I wouldn't even bother to get in that enterprise. What I want to see is a confident, independent, and decisive IEBC that will deliver free and fair elections to the people of Kenya. What NASA and Jubilee thinks can only be helpful to themselves. I'm not interested.
All right, Prof, we're about to wind up, but
Yep.
before we wind up,
Yep.
what will be your last word to Kenyans?
My last word to Kenyans that this is your country. And they say that the world is not made evil by the actions of the bad man. The world is made evil by the silence of the good people. The reason why we are where we are at is the silence and the indifference of the people. These guys do not care about you, but this country is yours and you can determine the direction that it takes. Every young person has an appointment with the future. NASA and Jubilee have appointment with the past and with themselves. If we want to change this country, we must inspire and invest in a new generation of young people. And this is not a very easy journey for me. It's a difficult one, and it is a lonely one. But I am taking it so that every young person in this country will not take theirs alone.
Professor Michael Wainaina.
Yes.
It was wonderful to have you on the show.
It was wonderful to be here.
I think I'll need like a whole bottle of water after this.
Okay.
But it was a pleasure.
Thank you.
And thank you for lighting up the mood of the show and, stating the facts as you see them.
Thank you.
This has been The Point. I am Miriam Ogutu. Until next time, thank you for watching.